The United Kingdom, in 2025, ushered in a new era of immigration policy marked by stricter regulations and heightened barriers to entry. This shift represents one of the most significant changes in the country's approach to immigration in recent history. The new policies have introduced a range of measures that make it more challenging for individuals to enter and settle in the UK. These include more rigorous visa requirements, increased scrutiny of applications, and tougher enforcement of immigration laws. The Conservative government, citing concerns over national security and economic sustainability, introduced a series of reforms designed to curtail immigration and redefine the pathway to British citizenship. These reforms are part of a broader strategy to control the flow of people into the country and ensure that those who do come are able to contribute positively to the economy. These changes sent ripples of anxiety and confusion through immigrant communities across the UK, leaving many questioning their future in their adopted home. The uncertainty has been particularly pronounced among those who have lived in the UK for many years and have built their lives around the assumption of stability and security. At the heart of these reforms lay a fundamental shift in the UK's approach to immigration, one that prioritizes control and selectivity over integration and multiculturalism. This new approach is seen by many as a departure from the values of openness and inclusivity that have long been associated with British society. The government argues that these measures are necessary to protect national interests and ensure the long-term prosperity of the UK. They claim that by tightening immigration controls, they can better manage the country's resources and provide more opportunities for British citizens. However, critics contend that these changes are draconian, discriminatory, and will ultimately harm the very fabric of British society. They argue that the new policies will create a more divided and less cohesive society, where immigrants are seen as outsiders rather than valued members of the community. The 2025 reforms represent a significant departure from previous immigration policies. In the past, the UK has been known for its relatively open and welcoming approach to immigrants, which has helped to create a diverse and vibrant society. They signal a hardening stance towards immigration, reflecting a broader global trend towards nationalism and border security. This trend has been seen in many other countries around the world, where governments are increasingly prioritizing the interests of their own citizens over those of immigrants. As the UK navigates its post-Brexit identity, immigration has become a central battleground, with far-reaching consequences for the country's social, economic, and political landscape. The outcome of this debate will shape the future of the UK for many years to come, determining not only who is allowed to enter the country, but also how those who are already here are treated and integrated into society. The new era of UK immigration policy is a complex and contentious issue, with strong arguments on both sides. As the country moves forward, it will be crucial to find a balance that protects national interests while also upholding the values of fairness, compassion, and inclusivity that have long been the hallmark of British society. Only time will tell how these changes will impact the UK, but one thing is certain: the debate over immigration is far from over, and its resolution will play a key role in shaping the future of the nation. One of the most controversial aspects of the 2025 reforms is the crackdown on refugees and asylum seekers arriving through irregular routes. This has sparked a heated debate across the nation, with opinions sharply divided on the issue. The new policy effectively bars individuals who enter the UK without prior authorization from claiming asylum, regardless of the circumstances that led them to flee their home countries. This sweeping measure has been described as one of the most stringent immigration policies in recent history. This means that refugees who arrive by boat across the English Channel, for example, will be deemed inadmissible and face immediate detention and potential deportation. The sight of these overcrowded boats has become a symbol of the desperate measures people are willing to take to seek safety and a better life. The government argues that this measure is necessary to deter people smuggling and discourage dangerous journeys across the English Channel. They believe that by implementing such strict policies, they can reduce the number of lives lost at sea and combat the illegal activities of smuggling networks. They claim that these routes are often exploited by criminal gangs and pose a significant risk to the lives of those attempting to reach the UK. The perilous conditions of these journeys cannot be overstated, with many refugees facing life-threatening situations as they cross treacherous waters. By closing down these routes, the government aims to encourage asylum seekers to use safe and legal pathways to enter the country. They emphasize that these legal channels are designed to ensure the safety and security of both the refugees and the host nation.
However, human rights organizations and refugee advocates have condemned this policy as cruel and inhumane. They argue that it fails to consider the dire circumstances that force individuals to flee their home countries and seek refuge through any means possible. They argue that it violates international law, which prohibits countries from penalizing asylum seekers based on their mode of entry. International conventions such as the 1951 Refugee Convention are cited as being in direct conflict with these new measures. Critics also point out that the so-called safe and legal routes are extremely limited and often inaccessible to those in desperate need of protection. They highlight the bureaucratic hurdles and lengthy waiting periods that can make these legal pathways impractical for many refugees. The debate continues as policymakers, human rights activists, and the public grapple with finding a balance between national security and humanitarian obligations. The international community watches closely, as the UK's approach could influence global refugee policies in the years to come. Ultimately, the effectiveness and morality of these restrictions will be judged by their impact on the lives of those seeking asylum and the broader implications for international refugee protection standards.
Another significant change introduced in 2025 is the extension of the residency requirement for permanent settlement. This new rule has sparked a lot of debate and concern among immigrants and policymakers alike. Previously, foreign nationals could apply for indefinite leave to remain, also known as permanent residency, after 5 years of continuous residence in the UK. This 5-year period was seen as a reasonable amount of time for immigrants to establish themselves, integrate into society, and demonstrate their commitment to the country. However, under the new rules, this period has been doubled to 10 years, making it significantly harder for immigrants to secure their long-term future in the country. The extension has raised concerns about the impact on families, as many will now face prolonged periods of uncertainty and instability. The government justifies this change by claiming that it will allow for greater scrutiny of applicants and ensure that only those who are fully committed to living in the UK and contributing to society are granted permanent residency. They argue that a longer residency period will help filter out those who may not have genuine intentions of settling in the UK. They argue that the longer residency period will provide ample opportunity to assess an individual's character, employment history, and ties to the UK. This, they believe, will lead to a more robust and reliable immigration system, ensuring that only the most deserving candidates are granted the privilege of permanent residency.
However, critics argue that this measure is arbitrary and will create a two-tier system with long-term residents facing years of uncertainty and insecurity. They believe that the extended residency requirement is an unnecessary burden on immigrants who have already proven their commitment to the UK. They point out that extending the residency requirement will not deter genuine applicants, but will only serve to punish those who are already living and working in the UK, contributing to the economy and paying taxes. Critics emphasise that these individuals are already integral parts of their communities, and the new rule will only add to their stress and anxiety. Many immigrants have built their lives in the UK, with their children attending local schools and families participating in community events. The 10-year rule, they argue, disrupts the stability and continuity that is essential for their well-being and integration into society. Legal experts also warn that the new rule could lead to an increase in legal challenges and appeals as immigrants seek to navigate the more stringent requirements. This could potentially overwhelm the immigration system and create additional administrative burdens. Public demonstrations and protests have already begun to emerge, with activists and advocacy groups calling for a reconsideration of the 10-year rule. They argue that a more balanced approach is needed, one that recognises the contributions of immigrants while ensuring the integrity of the immigration system. As the debate continues, the future of many immigrants in the UK remains uncertain. The 10-year rule represents a significant shift in immigration policy, one that will have lasting implications for individuals and families striving to make the UK their home.
In addition to the stricter residency requirements, The 2025 reforms also introduce higher economic thresholds for citizenship applications. Applicants for British citizenship are now subject to more stringent income requirements designed to ensure they are not a burden on the state and can support themselves financially. These thresholds are significantly higher than in the past, making it more difficult for lower-income earners, including essential workers and those in public service, to qualify for citizenship. The government argues that these measures are necessary to protect public finances and ensure that only those who are economically self-sufficient are granted the privilege of British citizenship. They claim that these requirements are in line with those of other developed countries and reflect the value placed on individual responsibility and self-reliance.
Opponents of these changes argue that they create an unfair barrier to citizenship, effectively pricing out many hardworking individuals and families who contribute to British society but may not earn high salaries. They contend that citizenship should not be treated as a luxury reserved for the wealthy, but as a right earned through residency, commitment, and contributions to the country.